What an immense pleasure it is to be here at the Caribbean Student Colloquium. It is through forums such as these that we provide a platform for the region's youth to bring forth new and creative ideas that will take tourism to the next level. The youth represent the progression and vision for various countries, a vision that can only be manifested through fresh, young minds and innovative ideas. It is through these young eyes that we see the vision for the future of the tourism industry. The Caribbean Tourism Organization has provided a platform for the voice of our youth to not only be heard, but to be nurtured, developed, and put into practice. As leaders in the industry, we must all take the next step in providing a permanent seat at the table for our youth, respecting their voices, valuing their opinions, and providing the support necessary to transform their brilliant ideas into a reality. And speaking of a reality, as was mentioned, I can recall in 2013 when I came to the CTO for the very first time as the Junior Minister of Tourism, having returned in 2015 and 2016 with the then College of the Bahamas, now University of the Bahamas, a part of the Student Colloquium team. And it is with opportunities as such that I can reflect on, and I'm proud that I can stand here today as a young man who is the very embodiment of what opportunities can produce, and to say that I'm a young elected member of Parliament and a parliamentary secretary for the Ministry of Tourism in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Like many of our Caribbean countries, tourism is a major industry in the Bahamas, supplying directly 50% of the country's jobs, with large percent of tourism workforce being under the age of 25. This large engine called tourism is run by young people serving on the front line, whose desire is to serve as ambassadors for their respective tourism products. Globally, young people are viewed as a catalyst for change, who more easily embrace diversity, are technologically savvy, and environmentally conscious. It is because of these attributes that they are not only the future, but the present of the tourism industry. To the ministers and director generals present and commissioners, let's release the young people and allow them to do what we believe they can do. Encourage them without bringing them to their knees of the customers of our generation. Allow them to soar and take tourism to the next level. To our gifted and brilliant youth present today, we wish you all a lifetime of success in our precious industry. Continue to dream and dream big. Continue to share with your peers, even those who may seem, for the moment, misguided. And most importantly, continue to grow. It is through your development that our future and the future of the tourism industry is sustained and enhanced. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you. Good evening.
You have recently been elected one of the youngest, probably the youngest parliamentarian in the islands of the Bahamas. There's been a lot of feedback. You literally asked the people of the Bahamas to give you a chance. What are you looking for? And this only happened this year. So what are you looking for in terms of your this new election for the islands of the Bahamas?
Well, certainly I'm looking forward to more accountability, better transparency, and more fiscal management. This election, May 10th, proved that the people of the Bahamas are certainly tired of doing business as usual. I'm looking forward to the new initiatives that my government will be rolling out when we talk about implementing term limits for the Prime Minister. When we're talking about making the Attorney General an independent office of the government, those type of legislative implementations. And so, the future prospects for my country and my community is certainly great.
Before we get too deep into that, share with us your path to where you are right now.
Well, certainly, interestingly enough, I started out as a 21-year-old independent candidate of last year. I would have had a team, and certainly we were on the ground campaigning. And coming down to the latter year, end of last year, September of last year, the Free National Movement, as well as some other political parties, would have certainly reached out to me to be their candidate in the general election. We went through a very, rigorous process of interviewing all of the likes, and at the end of the day, I was ratified at 21-year-old on May 27th, October 27, 2016, as the Free National Movement candidate for the Baines and Grandstand constituency in the Bahamas. Um, the journey has certainly not been an easy one. I had a team, campaign team made up of about 86 persons who canvassed throughout the entire Baines and Grandstand constituency. There are about 10 polling divisions in my constituency, comprising 10,000 people live in my constituency, but there are about 5,000 registered voters who we needed to target and certainly get on the ground. But my campaign was one of a message. It had a theme. Our theme was hashtag youthful solution, providing solutions for all. And so we spoke to the needs of the young, the middle, and certainly the older generation. We launched a number of initiatives in the area that certainly got the people's attention, and at the end of the day, success was our reward.
You listed some lofty goals. One of them stands out to me: term limits within the Caribbean. Uh, do you anticipate any challenges in terms of your party pushing that agenda forward?
No, certainly not. My party would have campaigned on that premise that we will implement term limit for the prime minister, because that is what our country has been crying out for. When you look at about 43 years of independence, our country has only had three prime ministers, and so that was as a result of, because the leader or prime minister can serve for as long as he wants. What that did was that kept our country stagnant, because it did not allow for new, fresh, bright, innovative ideas to come forth from other persons who haven't sat around the table but who were on the outside looking in, trying to add a new flavor to what we bring to governance.
But your portfolio is in the area of tourism. Um, Tourism numbers are up in the Bahamas. Uh, I would imagine you're suggesting that those numbers should even be higher.
Yes, definitely. I think that this is what we see is nothing compared to what we should be seeing. I often tell people that that tourism in the Bahamas, well, the Bahamas has been one of the only countries in the Caribbean for who has been able to survive solely off of tourism as number one industry for about 60 years. So just recently we celebrated, I think, was our 60-year golden jubilee of tourism. And when we look at where we come from to where we are today, and given the amount of millions and millions of dollars we as a country have pumped and invested into our tourism industry, certainly our numbers can even be greater, and that is certainly our mandate going forward into this 2017 and beyond.
Where did most of your support come from in terms of the younger folks, the older folks, females, etc.?
Well, most of the support was from young persons and single parents. And that is because, certainly with the young people, My opponent, the incumbent, Dr. Bernard Nottage, he was 72 years old, representative, and he's been in politics for about 35 years, and he represented Bain and Grandstown for 10 years, 10 years consecutive. Since then, we haven't seen much growth, and the young people in the community felt as though their voice were not being heard and it was not being put to the forefront. The interesting thing about this election in the Bahamas was that about 62 to 65% of the electoral voters were young people ages 18 to 35. So suffice to say, young people decided who the government of the Bahamas will be in this past May 10th election, and that's certainly what took place.
Being such a young politician in the Bahamas, do you think the younger folks are looking up to you, or will perhaps look up to you, and will get more involved in tourism?
Well, certainly, I know that persons probably not just within the Bahamas, but in the Caribbean and even some young people around the world, and even the older generation, certainly looking forward to great things from me. As I mentioned earlier, I know the challenges that this poses for me as a young politician and as a young person. First of all, to be able to champion the cause for young people and to make sure that their views and voices are heard. This is certainly a very pivotal moment for young people, many of whom, as you mentioned now, are given tourism an even a different eye because they see now the opportunities that can be derived from it. And many persons associate me as a young person to the tourism industry. Like I mentioned, having been served as Junior Minister of Tourism. And so, the future prospects for the Ministry of Tourism in the Bahamas are certainly great.
The Bahama project finally got off the ground. Um, what numbers are you looking at, or do you anticipate the Bahama project will bring to the islands of the Bahamas?
Well, the Bahama project, I would not speak specific to that as yet because there are still some uh, final stages of the project that has to be complete. So until such further time, I won't speak directly to that as yet.
The is Does that compete with the bigger hotel, which is the Atlantis?
Certainly not. They are in two different target markets. The Atlantis Resort is more of a family resort for the kids, the water slide, the theme parks, etc. The Bahamas speaks more to a luxury brand, bringing in high-end clients, and so their target market and are totally, I wouldn't say totally, but they're certainly different. And you would see actually in the years ahead, as we sit down this year and the next year, certain collaborations between both hotels will be on the table. Some of the challenges that I personally would have experienced growing up in a home, I certainly had both parents. They were both married. I'm the fifth out of six children, two girls and four boys. And when I think about me growing up in a home with no water, light, cable, phone, and the likes, the finer things or the more luxurious things in life. Those are certainly the challenges, some of the challenges that I faced. Um, Interestingly enough, I would have been considered what many people call an at-risk youth, and that's because of my involvement inside, or what you call gang-related activities. I have an interesting past. I often tell people the young man that you see speaking to you today wasn't always as well grown or poised as I present myself to be. And so, as I mentioned earlier, I would have been adopted in my eighth grade year by my homeroom teacher, and that is because in my school work I started to fall off or to get poor grades, as one would put it. Um, I started when I started drifting away from home, just doing my own thing, because of the environment that I was in, the being in Grandstown, which is more or less inner city or what we call the quote unquote ghetto community. And And so the pressures were great for me when I had my peers who, wanted to pressure me to give in to smoking or drinking or, getting in fights, etc. The challenges were all there. And I remember once when I did get into a physical altercation in one of my junior high schools, it was certainly because of the intervention of, as I mentioned, my adopted mother, that I was able to turn my life around and to get back on track to having a decent and successful future. As I always tell young people or anyone who asks, don't wait on the right moment. Take this moment and make it the right moment. And that is because we often feel as young people that we don't have the education enough, we're not experienced enough, or we don't boast the financial resources enough to be able to venture into entrepreneurship or, to do what I have done, to go into politics and take on incumbent giants, etc. And my push to them is certainly follow your dreams. Now is the best time to pursue the dream. Don't wait for it. The longer you take to pursue your dream, the shorter you will fall to actually accomplishing it. Because at this young age, in my life, should I not have been successful, the next 5 years I could have gone after it again because I have the lifespan enough to do that. But if I did this when I was 65 years old and I lost out, certainly at age 70, the opportunities would have been even less than they were when I started out. And so the younger you are pursuing your dream, the more time enough you have to accomplish it and to correct any failures that you may have had in pursuit of it.
In terms of investment, since we've opened this airport, we've seen a lot more interest in investing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is a big thing for us in terms of some of the name brand hotels looking to come into St. Vincent and the Grenadines, so we're happy about that. We also opened earlier this year Pink Sands Hotel on Canawan, which is above a 5-star hotel, 60 rooms, but exquisite, something that everybody should see. And then last month we opened Glossy Bay, which is a new marina, state-of-the-art marina on Canawan also. State-of-the-art, nothing like it in the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, they can only 2% of the yachts that are in the world. They can only not take 2% of those yachts. So things are looking up for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we're very happy about the direction we're moving in.
You started off speaking about Argyle Airport. I know the project started in 2008, and there were several setbacks. Now you're all excited that it has opened. It took a whole lot to bring that project, to lift that project off the ground, since you had to remove literally some mountains and
some valleys, span 2 rivers, remove a church, remove a cemetery, over 120 homes. So yeah, we literally had to move mountains to get it. But it's a project, it was a chicken and egg situation. You wanted investors to come in, but they were saying, well, it makes no sense to invest because how are you going to get your passengers there? And then you want to build the airport, but build it for what? Because you don't have the room capacity. So the government took a very strong stance in making sure that they needed to construct this airport, and give credit to the government and what they did to make this a reality for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Where does that put Arnesville?
Arnesville is fully closed now. For those who don't know, St. Vincent and the Grenadines has 5 airports, the largest of which is Argyle International Airport, another one on Beckway, Mustique, Canawan, and Union Island. The new Argyle International Airport also has the second longest runway in the English-speaking Caribbean right now.
It's also solar.
Some of it, no, not all of it is solar. We're moving towards solar. We have a lot of projects coming up in terms of solar. We have a geothermal project coming up, which is partly funded by the Clinton Foundation out of the United States. So we have a lot of things going on that will really move St. Vincent and the Grenadines forward.
Where are you in terms of the cruise industry?
Well, we grew by about 100,000 passengers this year, and we're hoping by next year we'll be doing another 130,000 passengers. I think you'll see, especially with the airport now on stream, a lot of different things open up for us in terms of marketing and everything, because now we can have a call to action. We can actually use St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a home port or partial home port for some of the cruise ships now, because the airport is only about 20-25 minutes, approximately 20-25 minutes outside of Kingstown, so in very close proximity.
Let's switch topics a bit. LIAT. A number of our small destinations rely on LIAT, and LIAT has its challenges. Are there any discussions in the works, any discussions going on right now in terms of addressing some of those critical issues?
I wouldn't be able to say. I'm no longer a minister, but I can say this, yeah. And we still look, not because we have the international airport, LIAT is still a major player within St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're one of the main shareholders. And the simple thing is this, we're Caribbean people. The Caribbean needs to look at this. LIAT has its issues, nobody's denying that. It has a lot of issues that need to be corrected. But I think the Caribbean also has to look at it this way. Nearly every Caribbean country subsidizes other airlines to come into their country. What is so hard in putting some money into your own regional airline? Is it that we still have an inferiority complex in terms of these sort of things? Because you can't expect LIAT to serve everybody, not getting any help from the other Caribbean countries, and yet still do what is expected. If you want to have a say at that table, if you don't want to be an investor or a shareholder, at least give it market support like what you do with other airlines to come into your destination. And nobody can say that, well, it's only regional. Regional travel, and anybody can correct me if I'm wrong, plays a big part in our tourism figures. Everybody in the Caribbean, every Caribbean national wants to visit every Caribbean country. When you put, for example, our numbers together, when you put Barbados and Trinidad together especially, when you combine those numbers, it almost comes up to what you're getting out of the US and the UK and Canada. So the numbers are big for us, and interregional travel is very big for us, and we really have to look at it and see how we can develop it more and make it more accessible for our citizens.
Well, yes, the conversation has been that, yes, regional travel is critical, or interregional travel is critical to our destinations. But yes, there's no target initiative to target those other countries within the Caribbean. Folks come for Carnival, etc. You know, Trinidad has Carnival, they go. You have Vinci Mass, they go for Vinci Mass. Barbados has Crop Over. But is there a sustainable effort to attract interregional travel to the Caribbean?
From St. Vincent and the Grenadines, yeah, there's a sustainable effort for it. And I think there's a sustainable effort for most Caribbean countries because it plays such a big part in it. I mean, I can tell you for LIAT, where LIAT used to make its money, a lot of its money is between Barbados, Trinidad, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, right? A lot of other Caribbean countries want more flights out of LIAT. Fair enough. Give it some market support. Do something. Make some deals with them. Lower your tax base in terms of to get into your country to make those tickets cheaper. But if you want that, it can't be that we're only going to give the North American and European carriers some sort of support. We have to give our regional carriers some support. But that's something that the policymakers and the governments are going to have to look at and see what's the best way forward.
Yeah, but part of LIAT's argument has been, does it make sense for me to leave Barbados as an example? Drop off 6 people in St. Vincent, the Grenadines, St. Lucia, doesn't matter the destination, and pick up 2.
Well, listen, the most expensive part of running an airline is landing and taking off. The problem in the Caribbean is as soon as you take off, it's nearly time to land. It's not like a 4-hour flight from Barbados to New York or something like that. It's from St. Vincent to St. Lucia is 22 minutes. St. Vincent to Grenada might be 23. St. Vincent to Barbados is 25. So they're very short flights, which is very hard on the plane. Now, yes, in terms of the numbers going from each Caribbean country to another, some of them might be small, but most of the time they're not. What is hindering is the cost of interregional travel. And that's not LIAT's fault completely. A lot of it has to do with oil prices. But going on beyond that, when you look at a LIAT ticket and you go to the bottom, around approximately 56% of the cost of that ticket are the government taxes. Now, government has to make its money also and get their money from somewhere. But there has to be, in my opinion, a balance there in terms of, because if the fares are so high that it's hindering interregional travel, then we have a problem.
Is that part of the conversation when stakeholders get together and discuss the whole LIA issue?
Yeah, I mean, stakeholders are always upset about LIA. If it's not for one thing, it's for another. I don't think that some of the issues that stakeholders blame LIAT for, I don't think they are fair. I think a lot of times we only hear about the negative of LIAT, but there are a lot of positives for LIAT also. I mean, we've had EC Express came in against LIAT. They folded, private sector. Caribbean Star by a billionaire came in. They folded. And that should tell you how difficult it is to run an airline like LIAT, where there are a lot of short drops. So, I mean, yeah, the stakeholders are going to complain, but I think we're also stuck in a place where, especially with social media, and I think in every Caribbean island now, every Caribbean island has so many radio stations compared to the 70s and 80s, and I'm showing my age there, that it's easy to complain and only show the negative aspects of it, but we have to show the positive aspects of it. And I go back to it. I'm not saying LIAT doesn't have its issues. It has a lot of issues, but there are a lot of positives about it also.
Okay, here in North America, the question is always asked. Every Caribbean destination is beautiful. Beautiful beaches, nice people, nice and friendly people. What makes St. Vincent stand out from the rest of the territories?
I mean, what makes St. Vincent and the Grenadines stand?
St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
It's simple. It's the diversity of the product. You know, everybody talks about their people. Everybody, that's you know, everybody's going to give you that answer. The diversity of St. Vincent and the Grenadines makes it unique. And it's arguably the most diverse destination in the Caribbean. There are only two destinations in the Caribbean that could possibly come up against St. Vincent and the Grenadines in terms of diversity. That's Jamaica and Bahamas. The only two. And I say possibly. And what makes us so unique is that the 32 islands and keys, right? But it's not just 32 islands and keys. And we're not all coral islands. You have St. Vincent, which is the mainland, which is a volcanic island. And then you have the other 31 islands of the Grenadines, which are coral islands. So we have four main niche markets: sailing and yachting, diving, romance, and eco-adventure tourism. Sailing and yachting is our biggest. Whether it's for the amateur or the professional, there's always an island in your eyesight. So it makes it quite unique in terms of that. You have the diving. On mainland St. Vincent, because it's a volcanic island, you have the cliff diving and you have the small critters. And some of the critters you can only be found in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Then you go down to the Grenadines, you have the coral islands where you dive with the turtles, sharks, you know, sunken treasure, and sea wrecks and so on. So you have both types of diving in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There's no other Caribbean country that offers that. You have the romance. St. Vincent and the Grenadines actually has 3 island resorts: Young Island, Palm Island, and Petit St. Vincent. And there are a few more to come on stream, hopefully sooner rather than later. You also have the ecotourism, because St. Vincent is a volcanic island, a lot of nature trails, the Amazonia Gildingi, which is our local parrot, which can only be found in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So a lot of unique things about it. And what carries it even further is that because of the diversity of the product, those 4 niche markets I called out, those are the ones we've chosen to really advertise. There are a lot of others, and not just that we have a lot of others, but of good quality. But we have to decide what our strengths are and not water it down a bit. So that's what makes us unique. Hard to beat us. And with Argyle International Airport on right now, it's going to be hard to touch us in the future.
Guyana is very excited to be here at the Caribbean Week in New York, and particularly at the media marketplace. The United States is one of our biggest source markets, and so it is very timely that we are here. We have a large diaspora that lives here. We have the best airlift with the United States, with the eastern seaboard of the United States, and so it makes a lot of sense for us to be here with the Caribbean Tourism Organization. This is a very proactive approach. The conferences have been good, especially the marketing conferences, the diaspora conference, and lots of the other events that we would have attended. But here today, the feedback is very, very good. A lot of interest and excitement in destination Guyana. And of course, we are South America undiscovered. And so because of the pristine nature of the country, because of its amazing wildlife, because of its amazing flora and fauna, our indigenous tribes and communities, because of community-based tourism, because we have 80% intact, pristine tropical rainforests, because we are friendly, warm, and welcoming people, because a lot of persons have not heard about Guyana, because we practice sustainable and responsible tourism. So there is a lot of interest and excitement in the destination to help us tell the story and to get others to come. This provided a major platform for us as well to present ourselves and to promote Destination Guyana. Our approach and the government and the country is committed to a green economy and to green economic development. And so that sells with anyone else. We are off the beaten path. We are the only English-speaking country in South America. And so the allure is there. The interest is there. A number of travel writers would have approached us. They really, really want to come to Guyana to help share the unique and interesting Guyana tourism story. And so we have seen last year an increase in arrivals, and that's about 13.6% increase in arrivals among 5 countries, CTO members who would have recorded double-digit growth. So far for the first quarter of this year, we would have recorded a 6.5% growth. So there is a lot of interest, not only because we are off the beaten path, but because of our location, because of our relatively being unknown, because of the wildlife, because of the pristine nature of the country. There is a lot of interest for adventure tourism, for nature tourism. We are a top bird watching destination as well, and very big on ecotourism as well.
Yeah, but you said 6% growth. 6% growth is significant. Most developing nations look at 3% growth as a significant number. How are you able to get those numbers?
We have partnered with a lot of people. We try to do a lot of good PR. We host familiarization trips. We try to expand our distribution, international distribution and sales network. We invite a lot of media to come into the country as part of a familiarization program. And we have opportunities coming up from September through November of this year for trade farms, for media farms as well. We have been very proactive in getting film companies to do short films and documentaries on Destination Guyana. And so the word is out. And then we have a large Guyanese diaspora that lives right here in New York, in Toronto, in the Caribbean, in the UK. And so they are also spreading the word. Last year we celebrated 50 years of independence. Just a few weeks ago we celebrated our 51st anniversary on the 26th of May. That would have also contributed to the increase in arrivals. We are working on expanding and improving airlift. Currently we are seeing a huge influx of Cubans into Guyana. They're coming mainly to shop, and they're staying, they're spending in Guyana. And so we want to continue to work with them to expand that. We had seen big increases for this first quarter from the Caribbean, where the Caribbean has actually, for the first quarter of this year, surpassed the United States in terms of arrivals. And that again is testimony to the airlift, to the improved marketing, and the improved relations, more visibility, more branding for Destination Guyana. So I think we're doing the right things, and we're always looking for destinations, for tour operators, for media to partner with, to help to sell and distribute the country, and also to help to tell the story about Destination Guyana.
Geographically, Guyana is in South America. Culturally, you're Caribbean. From a Caribbean perspective, the Caribbean sells its music, its food. There's a lot of focus on food, a lot of focus on music. What does Guyana offer in terms of that? And is there a sustainable approach to marketing those products?
Well, definitely. Guyana is basically the breadbasket of the Caribbean. Ghana's massive land space, fertile coastal plain, and we produce a lot of food, seafood, agricultural products, and organic products at that as well. So we have tremendous potential. Matter of fact, Guyana has one of the smallest food import bill of all countries in CARICOM, and we are a net exporter of food as well. So we produce most of our food, our sugar, our rice, all the vegetables, our seafood. We do not import beef, we do not import lamb, we do not import chicken, we do not import a lot of other critical items. It's grown and produced in Guyana. Food tourism or culinary tourism is big in Guyana because one can have a variety of dishes because we are 6 people living together and 9 indigenous tribes. And so one can have a variety of foods in Guyana, and many are unique to Guyana. So from Indian to Portuguese to African to European foods to our indigenous cuisines, we have it all. And not to forget the variety of Indian dishes. So Guyana is doing well in terms of food, and if there is one thing a tourist will do, is that he or she will eat at least 3 times, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so we can wow them with the fruits and the vegetables, with the fresh meat that is slaughtered just days before. So it's about wholesomeness, about freshness, about being organic, and serving safe, very safe food. So we have a good history and reputation of food, and this is something that we are fine-tuning as well and hoping to push more in the future. Culturally, Guyana is a melting pot. Like I said, 6 races living together, 9 indigenous tribes, and so we would have noticed that even on the entertainment front, in terms of music, a lot more is happening in Guyana. Matter of fact, a lot of persons in the Caribbean come to Guyana and have some of the biggest shows. For instance, we have a lot of Trinidadians who are always in Guyana performing. But we have a lot of Guyanese who are also performing in Guyana, in the Caribbean, and abroad. And so it's an area that is receiving a lot of focus and development because, you know, events and entertainment are basically like the pulse or the heartbeat of a destination. And it's a new form, a new way of exporting your culture through your music as well.
With the recent discovery of oil, a significant find of oil off the coast of Guyana, do you see the government making a sustainable effort, a continued sustainable effort to push your tourism product?
Exactly. Oil is no hindrance to tourism development. The government of Guyana is very committed to a green economy and to sustainable tourism and sustainable economic development. The revenues from oil will be used to further tourism development. It would help to conserve more areas in Guyana. It would help to develop the infrastructure. It would help to provide better quality education, better quality health, better sea defenses. It would help and be plowed back into the economy for green development and green energy development at that. And so it plays a major role in boosting tourism and other sectors of the economy. It would help to also, the revenues coming in would also help to make us more competitive, not only as a tourism destination, but help us to boost our manufacturing capability and capacity so that we can compete and export more as well. So oil is a blessing in disguise. It's a natural resource, and Guyana's endowment in terms of natural resource has always been terrific. With this new find, we'll move now from an oil importing country to an oil producing country. And so the revenues, like I said, will be used to continue sustainable growth, sustainable development, green energy, and to build on a green economy.
With this renewed focus on tourism,
I like to say that tourism, there are three parts to it. Two of those parts is airlift, as well as accommodation. Are there any new properties coming in stream, and are there new discussions happening with additional airlines to help enhance your tourism product?
Okay, both are very, very important. Guyana is expanding the current airport, the Chedijegan International Airport, and this we are hoping will be completed. That's expanding the runway to accommodate larger carriers, and that's part of our strategy. We have recently signed open skies agreements with a number of countries, including Chile, China, India, countries in the Middle East, among others. We have a very proactive strategy of going after major international carriers. We're looking at more branded international carriers. The end of this month, we'll be signing an open sky agreement with Brazil. And Brazil is a giant next door to Guyana with over 200 million people. And so we just want 1% of that to come to Guyana. Like I said, we would have seen an increase in arrivals from the Caribbean. And so we are working very closely with Caribbean Airlines, with Liat. There are a number of other airlines that serve Guyana, Fly Jamaica, for instance, Suriname Airways, and we have Dynamic Travel Span and Dynamic that is also serving. So there are a lot of other airlines that are interested, JetBlue, for instance, and American Airlines. So we are pursuing those because we know that airlift is the foundation and the backbone of travel and tourism. And so once we can improve our airlift and our capacity and the number of seats coming to Guyana, it will certainly increase arrivals. Increase in arrivals means more employment, more expenditure in the economy, and so we can have, more growth. Accommodation is also key. Guyana would have jointly hosted Cricket World Cup, the T20, and so we have always been serious about accommodating visitors. More recently, we would have had the Princess Hotel acquiring the Ramada franchise, and so the rebranding was done 1 year ago. And we also have the Marriott, which opened its doors about just 2 years ago. So those are two new developments. We have another local hotel that has opened up under quarantine, close to 100 plus rooms. And then we have another hotel property that is going up in the city that will have several hundred rooms as well. So we're always mindful of that, and we're also looking at homestay and B&B and looking at improving our lodges and the capacity. And we are actively and proactively looking for investments in these critical areas, in transportation and the airlift, and in accommodation facilities, and also in luxury and other eco lodges and resort type facilities. So Guyana is basically open for investment, and we are keen in attracting new investors, whether it's joint ventures and to work in Guyana. We have a lot of benefits and a lot of incentives for investors as well.
Finally, what are you expecting to take away from this conference?
From this conference, we would have learned a lot about trends, about the millennial market, about new marketing strategies and tactics and ideas, about the importance of collaboration and partnership. So a lot of key messages. The need to improve your product, to offer world-class product. The need to train and build capacity. The need to really do well at targeting and segmenting your market and knowing your customer and listening to your customer and obtaining feedback from them. That is critical. And so we have learned that we have to be more proactive in terms of marketing and promoting the destination, and sustainability is one of the key themes of this conference here in New York. The Caribbean Tourism Organization is committed to sustainable development, and in its mission and its vision, it is mentioned. And so what we are doing in Guyana, I think we are on the right track in sustainable and responsible tourism development. And so there is a natural fit. And so we must complement the Caribbean tourism.
Speaking with the Honorable Dominic Febee, the Minister is the Minister of Tourism for the beautiful island of St. Lucia. Is this your first visit to Caribbean Week in New York?
Very first time, and very happy to be here. It's good to have engaged a number of my counterparts in the Caribbean. It's just an extraordinary time for the Caribbean. We've just been at the Ministerial Council, and we've discussed a number of issues that have been affecting tourism in the Caribbean. And I think it's a great place and a great vehicle through which we can sort out some of the many issues that confront us. A lot of the common issues, issues such as transportation, marketing, and so on. And it's been a good time, yeah.
Well, let's talk about transportation first. St. Lucia depends heavily on LIAT. There have been some challenges with LIAT. What conversations are happening within Cabinet in terms of how you deal with those LIAT issues?
Well, I want to say that my personal opinion is this. I think that LIAT has been a tremendous partner for regional integration and one of the success stories of regional integration. And I think that they have played a tremendous role. I believe that some competition can help and will make LIAT a better service. I think what we want out of all of this is a better LIAT and a better airspace within the Caribbean within which we can all operate. And if there is a successful LIAT and a successful other airlines, then I think that we would do very well as a region. So diversity is very good. In addition to that, I think that there are so many spin-offs, and it's important that we get the regional airlift situation well, the inter-island travel, so that we can encourage multiple destinations for people that are coming from the outer Caribbean to also enjoy multiple destinations at a time in the land-based component of the industry. At present, you can do that via yachting and cruising, but I think that the airlift situation getting organized would then allow that other option.
While LIAT has its challenges, isn't part of the problem the high taxes that are imposed by governments?
Well, I think that governments are always going to be looking for opportunities to see how they can yield in terms of their own revenue and fiscal situation. You look across the Caribbean, and one of the things that we have in common, with an exception to a few islands where the CIP program has done very well to bring about a lot of revenue, is that they do have fiscal challenges, and governments will have to find creative ways to see how they can extract as much revenue as possible so that they can replace their, by and large, deficit budgets that they've been running for decades in certain instances. And so how they can narrow that deficit gap is very critical and crucial.
Don't want to put you on the spot, but yes, you talk about being creative in terms of getting revenue, but air travel increases revenue. So if it's made harder to travel, how does that increase revenue in terms of achieving your objective?
Well, there are a number of things. I don't think that people only go to a destination based on price. I think that each destination has to look at its product, has to look at the profile of its customers, and has to see what is the average cost of a holiday package or a vacation package, and then determine what level of taxation that destination can afford. And I think that it's not for me to say, it is for the individual countries to actually make that analysis. There's something also called the equilibrium in economics, and there's a point where demand and supply actually meet each other. And I think that it is for all of us to find that right balance between taxation and its implications for demand without it affecting demand. So I think that I would have to trust the economic prowess of the various countries, and it is for the individual countries to decide.
There have been a lot of reports out there in the news in terms of other destinations contributing towards LIAT. Part of the conversation deals with the fact that St. Lucia doesn't contribute towards LIAT, yet benefit tremendously from LIAT. What is your government doing to address that?
St. Lucia is also a very sought-after Caribbean destination, and it's one of the profitable routes for LIAT, and I think that the numbers will show. So I believe that there are a number of different things that will contribute towards the need to attract airlift, and if an airline believes that it can do without a destination, and the only way it can fly to that destination is because of additional support, then it is up to that airline to negotiate with the respective governments on those issues. I think that St. Lucia, by and large, we're thankful for the services that LIAT has provided for us, but can LIAT become a better organization, an organization that delivers on time, an organization that can run more successfully as a business? We think yes would be the answers to those questions. But certainly, do we see LIAT as playing an integral and essential role to the overall regional transportation system? Absolutely. But what we're also saying is that LIAT has got to improve.
Okay, let's talk about what St. Lucia has to offer. Let's talk about St. Lucia comprehensively from a tourism perspective, now that we've got LIAT, out of it. To a visitor who's never heard of LIAT, who've never heard of St. Lucia, looking to travel to St. Lucia, what does St. Lucia have to offer? And I know it is popular to say that we've got beautiful beaches, we've got nice people. But I can say that about Barbados, I can say that about Jamaica, I can say that about Antigua, Anguilla, etc. What makes St. Lucia so unique?
St. Lucia's got a unique soul. It's an amazing place. The landscape, the topography, the mountains make the island so sexy. It is incredible to come and to see the pitons. It is incredible to come and to bathe in a mud bath in one of the world's only drive-in volcano. It is incredible to come and to see real rivers and real waterfalls. Really, St. Lucia belongs to another part of the world, but it is in the Caribbean. It has got so much rainforest, so much vibe. There's an aura about the place. So much is going for it. We have got a formidable chocolate industry. We've got romance. In fact, I didn't say it, but the leading travel professionals in the world, they've actually, in the last 15 years, voted St. Lucia 9 times as the world's leading honeymoon destination. That is a big statement. And that alone says to you, when you've got people who are avid travelers, who have been around the world, and then they say to you that this is the most romantic place on earth, that says to the average honeymoon seeker that this is the place that they must go. We invented the no fourth wall concept in the Caribbean. So hotels like Jade Mountain and Eleuthera, where Oprah visited and said to the world on her show that this is one of my top 5, you must go. It's part of the reason why Sandals, for example, has just announced that they are building their 4th resort. And if a company like Sandals that has been so successful has decided that St. Lucia is a significant part of its growth strategy, it tells you that there's something special about that destination. So what I like to do, I like to go beyond the fluff of what ministers and travel tourist board people say, and I look at the facts, and the facts are pointing to one thing, and that is St. Lucia is a remarkable destination, an amazing place for people to visit. You know, Derek Walcott, who is our Nobel laureate for literature, and he's one of the finest writers this earth has ever seen. I don't think that Derek Walcott could have done justice to the beauty of St. Lucia. I think you've got to come and you've got to feel the place. You've got to feel the aura so that you can understand its trueness and its St. Lucianness.
Where is the government support in jazz at this moment?
Well, the government is supporting a summer festival. The Jazz Festival was the main tourism marketing event. So what you're seeing now is a strategic restructuring of our marketing efforts. So what obtained previously is that we had this Jazz Festival, which really exhausted about 1/3 of the budget from our marketing. It's the main tourism marketing event, but it has come so stale. It is very difficult for us to garner interest in the international press to come and provide coverage. We've lost the television arrangement with BET. And we now had to go back to the drawing board and say, how are we going to spend a third of our marketing budget? And so we have created new products that will create new talking points that will give the destination more exposure. And so we've created a summer festival. We've got 5 extraordinary festivals, Roots and Soul. We've got rum and food, which I believe is very indigenous to who we are as a Caribbean people and St. Lucia. And as well, we're going to focus more on Carnival. We're going to focus more on Creole Heritage Month. St. Lucia has got an enormous history from its colonial past of French and English that makes a wonderful fusion of African, European, dominated by French and English. And bringing those 3 cultures together makes us an extraordinary people. And what we want to do is to extract that St. Lucianness, that uniqueness, where you can get really in just about only one place in the world, and to bring that as a tourism product. And we're doing so in our Creole Heritage Month. And I am excited at this time to be the Minister of Tourism. I'm very proud that my country is finally proud of its history, of its heritage, to bring that to the fore and exhibit it to people coming from all over the world to say, this is who we are, you enjoy this. And we are understanding now that we can develop our economy just by being who we are, not someone else.